episode 3 of Bastard Dog Beers. I'm your host Ian, and this is, as I said, it's the third episode. So at the moment, I'm going to bring you up to speed of where we are with the beer at the moment. So I've done all the hop additions, and I've gone through about 3 days of that. First one you've already seen the video for, which was the oak chips. They went in. That was great. Later on that evening, then the first hop addition went in, which was about 100 grams of a mixture of Simcoe and Summit. Evening 2 was the same thing as well, and yesterday evening the last hop addition of that went in, so that was about another 100 grams of that gone in as well. So that was actually really great. That also, all my hop additions are done. This evening I got home and I've actually taken out all the addition bags now at this point, and I was super careful not to squeeze the bags. This was something which was recommended to me by an awful lot of people, and it was something that came up on an awful lot of forums as well. Whatever you do, please do not do it like you do with tea bags in a cup of tea, you know, squeeze the bags. Try and get all the goodness out, otherwise you're just bringing a whole load of sedimenty shit into the FV. So it's great is that fantastic big wafty aroma coming up out of it, which is great. Bitterness level in it already is actually kind of decent-ish, which I kind of expected it would be, but there's no tannins in it as well, which I think is really, really great. So I don't think it's actually it's gone so far that it has. And when I take a draft out of the tap in the bottom just to go and check it, it's still a little bit cloudy, so it's going to need a little bit of time, I think, to clear. I've had a couple of people suggest to me that I can clear this a couple of ways if I want to do it. Number one, I can try clear it using egg whites, which is a traditional method that's used in winemaking, and it's something that I'm familiar with from as a kid, using egg whites to do it, but it means taking this big gelatinous thing of crap out of the bucket, which I'm not really looking forward to. Mother's experience in the past was there are some people who would use carrageen or Irish moss, and they'd use it at the wort boiling stage to try and clear it up at that point. But she's also said in the past that she's actually cleared, when she's been making her own lagers in the past, she's actually cleared it using Irish moss at the end, at this point, just after any of the additions had been taken out, and she's at the point where she's just trying to get it, see if it can clear and settle it a bit more before you getting into either batch priming or bottle priming. And so what she's done is she said, look, hey, I've done this with my lagers, and my lagers have always come out like fairly clear as well. She's one of those nutty people like that, real perfectionist when it came to her beers and her wines. Like, just always, like, if something wasn't right, I'd be like, no, batch is screwed, going out. It wouldn't be a case of, oh, I'll accept the imperfection. I, on the other hand, at this point, I'm like, if I make a screw up in this, I don't really mind, because, you know, part of the point of this video series is that you should be able to see what my screw ups are. I should be able to share them with people, and then so people can learn from my screw ups and hopefully not make the same mistakes. Pardon me a second. This is 8 Words Mighty Ale, an amazing ass-kicking Imperial Red. At the moment there's a discussion about trying to make additional beers and everything else myself, like with a couple of my friends, and I'd love to do an Imperial Red, but I've actually already settled on the second beer, and I'll get into that in a second so we can talk about that more. Pardon me. Oh, that's good. I really enjoy that. And yes, for those who are playing along at home, I am actually using a BastardDog glass. I have a lot of these. Sorry. So one of the things with this beer that I'm hoping to achieve is like that when it goes through its priming phase. Now, there's some people who I've seen when they're talking about this beer, they've said that when it goes into bottle priming. Now, I'm actually not going to or bottle aging or bottle conditioning, bottle priming, bottle conditioning. That it's going to take approximately 8 to 10 weeks maybe for it to actually get to its peak. And I know that the first 3 weeks are pretty much the week when the main carbonation is actually happening, and then after that it's just aging of the beer. So I know that in the first 3 weeks I'm probably not going to crack open a bottle. I may crack open one as a curiosity, I'm not sure yet. Some people have said not to bother, just wait till it gets to the 3 weeks and open up a bottle, but don't expect too much from it at that point. There should at least be carbonation. But my good buddy, the Irish Beer Snob, had said to me, like, hey, how are you going to do your priming for going into the bottles? And I was like, well, I think I'm going to manage it, like, because actually I've got a couple mix of bottles. I've got like 330ml bottles and I've got 500ml bottles. He was like, hey, don't do that, just go batch priming. That means you've got an equal distribution all the way through. Think about how much beer you're going to have. And I'm like, okay, I've got 23 litres of beer sitting right now in the FV. And he's like, okay, so you've 23 litres sitting in there. Technically speaking, Ian, you're only going to have about 20 litres of beer. And if you even get 20 litres of beer, that will be an incredible feat as it is. He says he usually gets about 20 out of his batches. And he says you're going to lose some due to sediment and just crap sitting there that you're not going to be able to go and siphon off more than that. So he says you need to work on the principle. You're going to have 20, so you can't work on 23 if you're doing your sugar measuring to go and do the batch priming of the thing. And I'm like, okay, well that's fine, I can deal with that. There's no big issue with it. That's something that I can happily deal with. There seems to be a good bit of carbonation as it pissed out the bottom of the keg as well, and even the beer itself looks like it's quite fizzy when it's sitting in the hydrometer vessel, so I can drop the hydro away and spin it around. There's actually a tip I was actually given as well. When you're doing your hydro checks and you're at the point where there is some fizz going on in it, spin the hydrometer. And the reason being is when the bubbles are in there, they actually catch it and hold it, and they give you false readings. This was sort of, my mum said to me, hey, what's your reading in the hydrometer? I went to the station, and she goes, did you spin it? And I was like, what do you mean, did I spin it? And she goes, did you spin the hydrometer in the thing? And I went, no. I was just like, boom, dropped it straight in. And she was like, oh man, you're such a rookie. And I was like, yeah, well, this is the point of me doing this video series and going on this journey, so I can learn these things and make these mistakes myself, because no one tells you. Like when you get the beer kits, no one tells you, by the way, go and spin the fucking hydrometer in the thing. And so did the spin, and I was like, oh, so my gravity is actually, it's lower again than what it was. And she's like, yeah, there you go, now do it a couple more times, see how it goes. And then last night she rings me out of the blue and she goes, hey, I want you to siphon off some of the beer, and I want you to just put it in like a tumbler glass, like enough of it, just like a juice glass. Take about like a third of a juice glass, and I want you to fill it up with the beer out of the tap, and I want you to let it sit there for about 2 hours and see what way it settles, see how clear it goes. And I was like, whoa, there's a bit of shit still on the bottom of it. And she goes, well, have you got your additions in? I was like, yeah, what you got? There's a little bit of shit that's going to go on there, but when you go to do your siphon off, you'll start reducing this down. And then that's when you go to do your batch prime, you'll reduce this down. And then when you get into the other ones, this will go further again. And she's like, but you're still going to end up with a bit of a cloudy beer. And she goes, you can do this 2 ways. You can either, number one, let this try and settle for about 2 days after you got the additions out and see how it clears itself before you start getting into your batch priming and then into your bottling. And I'm like, okay, I might go down this route. And then she's like, no, well then you can go, the other option is you can go to carrageen moss. But, and she's like, Ian, I'm telling you this now, what's going to happen is you're going to use the carrageen moss and you're going to have to go in and remove big gloopy shit because all the proteins will be attached to the fucking thing. And it's going to be horrible. And it's going to be like reaching in and taking jelly out of liquid. Like the same thing you do with the gelatin leaves when you fuck them up when you're making jelly. And I'm like, I don't particularly like the feeling of that. It's always a bit of a horrible one. I've never liked gelatin leaves. And I'm like, oh great, so this is another one. But I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be using my fucking hands to take this thing. I'm going to be using it as like a big, huge, sanitized goddamn spatula or one of those big, soup scoops that you use to ladles. That's the word. Ladles. It's an English word. You can go and use it. We have the English language. You speak it, use it. And take that out of it, and I can take it out. Now, I don't know which way I'm going to go with this yet. So at the moment, taking the additions out earlier this evening when I got home, the colour of it was a little bit darker when I looked in the bucket as well. I was like, that was before I took them out. I was like, okay, I'm happy with that. Love the waft, the aroma coming up out of it too as well. So I'm really happy with that. I really like the bitterness level that I'm already tasting right now. So I can imagine when that sort of starts conditioning, that's either going to do one or two things. One, it's going to get better, or two, it's going to be the same as what it is. In which case, I'm not going to be particularly disappointed. It's what I wanted it to be. So I can't really complain about that. Pardon me. Now, in regards to moving on to planning what the second beer is going to be, because now we're at this stage where I'm kind of almost in the home straight for doing the conditioning part of it, which is the fuck off, wait and see part, as I like to call this now. I've already started to make plans of what the second beer is going to be. And the second beer actually, unwittingly, was kind of semi-decided for me by a beer I'd recently tried from Go Away Breweries, which was their Pilot number 8, their peanut butter stout. And because of how fucking bitterly disappointed I actually was in the beer, not because of the quality of the quality of beer in terms of tasting it and everything else was fantastic. My disappointment with this beer was, it's a peanut butter stout, and I got fuck all peanut butter out of it. And I was expecting here's what I was expecting, honestly. I was expecting their buried at sea beer with a big fucking truckload of Reese's type peanut butter in it. So almost like drinking a liquid peanut butter cup by Reese's. Now I've been doing it over the course of the last couple of days. while I'm looking at the other beer, and in one part I've got my head in my hands going, why is it that colour? Why is it not the colour I'm expecting it to be? And then wondering like, oh, is this going to turn out right or not? I think I might have bitten off. At one point almost going, Jesus, I think I've bitten off more than I can chew. And I'm like, fuck it, you're already in the middle of it. See the thing through and we'll see what happens out the other side. A stout was always going to be something I was going to do, or a porter was always going to be something I was going to do anyway. And this one isn't anything extraordinary. I mean, all I'm going to be doing is taking a stout kit. I'm going to be making a couple of additions to it. There's going to be a cold steep very early on in this as well. As part of like sort of the whole wort preparation side of things and the malt extract side of things. There's going to be some pure cacao going in there. There's going to be cacao nibs. There will be some powdered peanut butter. Now, here's the thing. You can't actually use peanut butter out of a jar when you're going into beer. And the simple reason is the fat content in there will just fuck everything up. According to people I've spoken with, and there's a number of other issues that it causes as well. With the beer, again, trying to make, if you're using pure cacao, it doesn't have any of the cocoa butter in it, so it's literally just the nibs at this point, which is what gets turned into pure cocoa powder, which is then either sweetened or unsweetened. And you've seen this in the supermarket when you go pick up your containers of the thing. So that's why I'll be doing it that way. I'd love to know what people's thoughts are. If you've tried out the Galway Bay peanut butter stout, their pilot number 8, let me know. You can leave a thing in the comments down below. If you want to subscribe to this, you can check out up there, hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Thanks for stopping by and checking out another webisode of Bastard Dog Beers. I will do another episode while I'm doing the bottling as well. That's going to be fun. It's either going to be like utter fucking chaos and mayhem and a one-man clusterfuck, because when it's me doing things, this is what's going to happen. Or 2, it'll just go smoothly, in which case then it'll need to sit there for at least 3 weeks, crack open a bottle, see what the buzz is with it, and then after that just play like the fuck off and wait game. So, until next time, cheers to you bitches.